It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer, and today we've got a juicy pale ale to show you from Vibrant Forest Brewing Company. This is the Inaudible. Probably me, isn't it? To audit something. Oh God, you're asking me something really complicated now, aren't you? To audit something. I think that's what it means anyway. Inauditable. In audit. It's something like me and my job when I work for Asda. You know, in a job like that, I didn't do too bad actually. I did about 14 months, maybe close to a year and a half, before the inevitable axe was going to fall and crash down on my head and I was sacked. I'm not proud of it. I'm having a bit of a giggle because I can now, because it was like 10 years ago, and like what happened to me in Asda was, you know, I'm a bit of an old school guy. I'm not going to talk to you about this over here or this over here. I'm just going to kind of just go, yeah. I've done some things in my past which are very old school, maybe old school thoughts, and it's likely to get you the sack. So I think that's what this means by inaudible. Like something, like if you were to audit something, I kind of grasp the word audit, but to explain it is a different matter. Like to go in and audit a department to find out where things can improve and what needs to be done and what not. So inauditable would be that you just can't do it. There was always a shelf life on me working in somewhere like Asda. I was always going to be too outspoken or say something I probably shouldn't say and be pulled into a tiny little room and be read my rights. And I'm talking, this room was built for purpose. Let's talk about the beer a moment. 2-finger, ivory coloured head. Good levels of carbonation. Straw coloured, hazy looking beer. Good nice carbonation in there. Yeah, so this room where they were doing this kind of like sackable thing was the size of a shoebox, but they built it by purpose. That was the room where they sacked people, and they fitted, there was enough room for a tiny little table and 3 chairs. I was in the one chair, 2 of the managers were in the other chair, and I remember feeling really crammed in, but you're supposed to feel like that. It's a big American company that owned, at the time, they were called Walmart. They're now owned by somebody else. But Walmart, being an American company, they know how to deal with people. They know how to make people feel uncomfortable, but legal. Nobody can say it's illegal to sack somebody in a shoebox size room, but it felt very cramped, and it felt it's meant to be a beer review, but we're talking about auditing and inauditable people and whatnot. But a lot of people cried in that room. A lot of people, when they were given their rights, because it felt so small and cramped, low ceiling, cramped up, they would cry. And I had this feeling of, I just wanted to swing my arms around in there, because it was very cramped up, and what I was being accused of, and which I come from a building site background, so I could really, I was used to being able to, but then again, building sites now, 2024, 2025, building sites, I haven't been on a building site for a number of years, but apparently they're different now as well. Apparently, you've got to be really careful what you say on a building site. I mean, blimmin' heck, I had rocks falling on my head and all sorts on a building site. There was fights with 4x2s and all sorts went on building sites when I was young. All sorts. And Because the world has changed, haven't it? But I took that building site, what was in me on a building site, I took it into Asda, and well, it got me as far as I could possibly go. I was never going to become a manager of Asda. I enjoyed my time at Asda though. I had some very fond memories of Asda. I really did. But into the beer, because we've been talking for 6 minutes about the introduction of this beer. Aroma then. Nice, yeah. Juicy pale ale, as they've kind of said, 5% ABV, this one. Juicy, tropical, little bit of passion fruit, little bit of mango. Yeah, spicy, peppery. Let's get in. Cheers. My wife was furious with me. She was like, what have you done now? I said, I got this blooming interview today. Probably going to lose my job. It's a good beer, that. Touch of passion fruit, touch of mango. Very soft and fluffy beer. Very kind of like a little bit of bitterness on the back end. A little bit of lemon, a little bit of lime. Very juicy, very drinkable. Very a beer that you could just kind of just enjoy and smash down and have another one and then have another one and then have another one. Yeah, it's really good. Probably, I'll be honest, I used to move a lot in jobs as well. If I worked somewhere, I worked in British Gas on the phones. All sorts of different jobs. I would move about because I had this mentality of I was an agency carpenter, which meant that once the job, and this is the thing, when you work on a building site, when the job finished, you just moved on. So there was no, like, it was just in you. It was almost like a bit of a gypsy culture where, and all due respects to gypsies, you know, it was a case of like the job finished, you went and got a job somewhere else. So I had this mentality coming through my apprenticeship and through, you'd meet people and then you wouldn't see them again. You'd meet people for 6 to 8 months, maybe a year, on a big car factory that I helped build in 1998. You'd build real big relationships with people and then boom, job finished, you wouldn't see them again. So I had that kind of like drummed into me for years and years and years of like, this is how life is, you know. So I never, when I went into work for, like I was a caretaker in a school, I had this horrible, and everybody knew it, but they wouldn't say nothing to her, you know, but I would. I had this horrible woman headmistress, and you know what they say about school teachers, they never leave school. If you're watching and you're a school teacher, I mean this with the greatest of respect, but this woman was horrible. This woman was like Adolf, like, you know, I'm not going to say the surname because I'll be in trouble, won't I? But she was a proper one of those, like, you know. And she crossed me, I crossed her and whatnot after about 4 months of me being in the job. And yeah, it just fell apart really quickly because I was not. They would all. I would notice she would go around and she would speak to people like she was Adolf, like, and then they would just zip it. But then when they would go to the canteen, they'd be like, I'm gonna give her this one day, and I'm gonna give her that one day. And I just one of these people. I never really said that I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do. I just did it. I just say, oh, whatever, like, you know, before the kids come to school type of thing. I'd be like, we'd have a right banny, and to some respects, some of the teachers, they were like, never seen this type of person before, never seen anyone quite like this, and it's just that building side background, that kind of like the job ends in a few months anyway. And I could have been in a school, I could have been a caretaker for 20 years if I just had my head screwed on. But you know, it is what it is. Like, you then move on to Asda, and then you do the same thing in Asda. Some jumped up team leader or whatever they call them. They're on £1 more an hour than you, but they, you know, in the canteen they all sit together and they never talk to you. And you know, if you work in the supermarket, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. I wouldn't have any of that. I wouldn't have any of that. The store manager would sit down with his toast and his Sun newspaper, and he'd want to sit with all the top table and what. I'd pull up a chair. How are you doing, Dave, or whatever your blooming name was now? Richard. I think his name was Richard. How's it going, Richard? You know, you heard all sorts of stories about Richard back in the day. He was like a boy and a half working in Cardiff Bay Asda, like getting up to all sorts. And it was only because he knew the right people that he was promoted from like general cabbage stacker to like store manager. And you know, these people they know better than you. They know like they're no more intelligent than you, and that come across in conversation. Because I would just I'd make my toast and my tea, because that was free in Asda back in the day in the canteen, and you just used to I used to just pull up a chair and say, and they'd all be like looking at me like I was an alien, like who's this? Why is this? But I didn't do it to like sit with the bosses. I did it because I knew they didn't like it. I knew they didn't like it, and I knew they thought they were better. That's why I pulled the chair up and I sat with them. And then I'd cause all sorts of ructions on the shop floor. And oh yeah, it was I'm a different person. And I went into this whole beer review not knowing I was going to speak about any of this. I was just trying to explain the word inaudible. And I've probably got the word wrong. It probably means something else. And I've probably been speaking to you about a whole different subject for the last 14 minutes that means absolutely nothing to this beer. This pale ale's really good. It's really, really good. It's juicy, it's tropical. Good head retention, good drinkability. I like that enough to give it a Stone the Crows 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom, cheers.